The biblical narrative is filled with fascinating stories that transcend time and space, offering profound insights into history and humanity. Among these accounts is the saga of Noah and his family, a tale that not only captures the imagination but also sheds light on the origins and destinies of people around the world. At the heart of this narrative is the cataclysmic flood, a global catastrophe that gave rise to a new era in human history. And it is within this context that we find one of the most significant genealogies in the Bible, the descendants of Noah, made up of his three sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Genesis 10, often called the Table of Nations, is a remarkable chapter that details the lineages of these three sons of Noah. It is an extensive and complex genealogy, filled with names and descendants, but it is within these verses that we find crucial clues about the ancestral roots of African and Black people. Understanding this genealogy not only connects us to the primordial origins of humanity, but also sheds light on the diversity and cultural richness that permeates the African continent. The importance of this genealogy lies in its ability to trace timelines back to the first post-flood moments, when humanity spread and diversified across the earth. Shem, Ham, and Japheth represent not only individuals, but also ethnic groups and nations that emerged from this critical moment in history. And it is Noah's son, Ham, who plays a prominent role when it comes to the history of African peoples. Ham, whose name means hot or hot in several ancient languages, is often associated with the African region and ancient Egypt. His descent, as reported in Genesis 10, includes prominent figures such as Cush, Misraim, and Put, who became the ancestors of several African nations. The specific mention of Misraim as the progenitor of the ancient Egyptians highlights the importance of Ham in the history of the African continent, especially when considering Egypt's central role in ancient civilization. Furthermore, Ham's name itself and its association with the word hot suggests an intrinsic link with the African climate and environment. This linguistic connection is not just a coincidence, but rather a reflection of the deep roots that Ham and his descendants have on the African continent. It is this ancestral connection that echoes through the ages, shaping the history and identity of African peoples to this day. However, it is important to note that the genealogy of Ham is not just a list of names and descendants, but rather a window into the complexities and nuances of human history. Biblical accounts, while offering valuable insights, must also be interpreted with care and context. Understanding the ancestral roots of African people is not just limited to the pages of the Bible, but rather extends to a variety of disciplines, including archaeology, linguistics, and genetics. The connection of African descendants to Noah is more than just a matter of genealogy. It is a story of resilience, diversity, and perseverance. As we explore these ancient origins, we are reminded of the richness and complexity of human history, which unfolds before us like a carpet woven from the threads of time. And it is within this tapestry that African peoples find their rightful place as heirs to an ancient history and a lasting heritage. But who was Ham, and why is his story so crucial to understanding the origins of African peoples? The name Ham is not just a label, but rather a reflection of the identity and character of this biblical character. In several ancient languages, including Hebrew, the name Ham translates as hot or heated. This is not a casual coincidence, but rather a powerful indication of your skin tone and your intrinsic connection to Africa's environment and climate. But Ham is more than just a name. He is a figure who plays a significant role in the biblical narrative. In the Psalm, we find one of the many verses that highlight Ham's contribution to the origin of African peoples. And he smote every firstborn in Egypt, the firstfruits of his strength in the tents of Ham. Psalm 78 and 51. This psalm echoes through the centuries, reminding us of Ham's enduring importance in biblical history and the formation of African peoples. However, understanding Ham's story goes beyond the pages of the Bible. It is a journey that takes us into the depths of human history and the cultural richness of the African continent. Ham is not just a name on a genealogical list, but rather a vital piece of the puzzle of African history, a figure who embodies the diversity and complexity of the human experience. In recognizing the importance of Ham, we also recognize the importance of African peoples in the narrative of human history. And in doing so, we honor not only the past, but also the present and future of the African people, who continue to shape and enrich the world around them. Within the rich landscape of Scripture, Genesis chapter 10 emerges as a complex and detailed tapestry that delineates the lineages of Noah's sons. Among these lineages, the descendants of Ham emerge as one of the most significant, known as the Hamitic people. It is within this lineage that we find crucial clues about the origins and diversity of African peoples. Cush, Mizraim, and Put are prominent figures within the genealogy of Ham, each playing a unique role in the history and identity of African peoples. Cuz, for example, is often associated with the Ethiopians and other African nations, while Mizraim is recognized as the ancestor of the ancient Egyptians. These names resonate through the centuries, reminding us of the depth of connections between Ham and the African peoples. In Cam's biblical genealogy, each name, each descent, tells a story of resilience, diversity, and perseverance. It is the story of ancient empires, of lost civilizations, and of peoples who left an indelible mark on the history of humanity. But Ham's story goes beyond the pages of the Bible. It's a story that unfolds in the deserts of Egypt, the savannas of Ethiopia, and the forests of West Africa. It is a vibrant narrative that spans centuries of migration, trade, and cultural exchange, highlighting the richness and diversity of human experiences over time. This story is not just about individuals, but about entire communities that forged bonds, exchanged knowledge, and shaped civilizations. The ancient Nile kingdoms, like Egypt, were the birthplaces of some of the oldest and most influential civilizations in human history. The fertile banks of the Nile River provided ideal conditions for agriculture to flourish and the establishment of complex, structured societies. The Egyptians developed advanced irrigation systems, monumental architecture, and hieroglyphic writing, leaving a lasting legacy that has profoundly influenced other cultures around the world. Furthermore, throughout history, the Sahel region of West Africa has been home to equally notable civilizations such as the Ghana Empire, the Mali Empire, and the Songhai Empire. These empires prospered along the trans-Saharan trade routes, facilitating trade in gold, salt, and other precious resources. They were centers of learning, with cities like Timbuktu becoming renowned for their universities and libraries. These kingdoms and civilizations not only contributed to the advancement of art, architecture, and science, but also played significant roles in cultural exchange and the dissemination of knowledge. Through trade and cultural interaction, these societies shared ideas, technologies, and beliefs, thereby enriching Africa's cultural fabric and influencing global development. Therefore, by examining the history of the ancient Nile kingdoms to the civilizations of West Africa, we witness not only the greatness of these societies, but also the complexity and diversity of human experience over the centuries. Their contributions and achievements continue to be celebrated and studied to this day, reflecting the crucial role they played in shaping the world in which we live. From the ancient kingdoms of the Nile to the civilizations of West Africa, Ham's descendants have left an indelible mark on the world, contributing to the development of art, science, religion, and culture. It is an epic saga of triumphs and challenges, of achievements and struggles, that continues to inspire and fascinate to this day. Among the biblical accounts that have sparked debates and interpretations over the centuries, the curse of Ham and Canaan, found in Genesis chapter 9 verses 20 to 27, remains one of the most controversial and misunderstood points. However, a careful analysis of this episode reveals nuances and details that help dispel misconceptions and offer a deeper understanding of the narrative. It is crucial to begin by highlighting that the curse pronounced by Noah was not directed at all African peoples, as has often been wrongly interpreted. Instead, it was specifically directed at Canaan, one of Ham's sons. This distinction is essential to avoid unfair generalizations and to correctly understand the context and purpose behind the curse. Furthermore, it is essential to consider the cultural and historical context of the time to fully understand the gravity of Ham's actions and the consequences within the biblical narrative. The disrespect shown by Ham when he saw his father Noah's nakedness and mocked the situation was considered a serious transgression of cultural and ethical norms of the time. When it comes to the family context, not only in ancient society but at all times, respect for parents and authority was and continues to be a fundamental principle, and in Noah's time any violation of this principle was seen as extremely serious. Unfortunately, we live in times where in many families disrespect for paternal authority no longer exists. We forget that this is a commandment with promises for our lives. You children, be obedient to your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor your father and your mother, which is the first commandment with a promise, so that it goes well with you, and you live long on earth. Ephesians 6 verse 1-3. Therefore, the curse of Canaan must be understood within this broader context of filial respect and paternal authority. This is not an arbitrary curse placed on an entire people, but rather a direct consequence of the specific actions of Ham and Canaan. This more accurate interpretation helps us avoid harmful stereotypes and appreciate the complexity of the biblical narrative. However, it is important to recognize that the interpretation of the curse of Ham and Canaan is not a simple, one-dimensional matter. Throughout history, this passage has been subject to a variety of interpretations and theological approaches, some of which have perpetuated prejudice and discrimination. This biased interpretation has often resulted in justifications for the subjugation and marginalization of certain ethnic groups, contributing to a legacy of injustice and oppression. It is therefore the responsibility of biblical scholars and readers to approach this narrative with sensitivity and discernment, recognizing both its historical significance and its contemporary implications. We must be aware of the cultural and social context in which these passages were written and interpreted, avoiding simplistic or literalist interpretations that may promote harmful or discriminatory ideas. In doing so, we can achieve a more complete and balanced understanding of the curse of Ham and Canaan, recognizing its importance within the biblical narrative and its relevance to issues of justice and equality today. We must take the opportunity to reflect on how these ancient narratives can inform our values and actions in the present, promoting compassion, empathy, and mutual respect among all peoples and cultures. Therefore, when approaching sensitive biblical texts like this, we must strive to promote an interpretation that promotes justice and equality, recognizing the intrinsic dignity and worth of all human beings, regardless of their ethnic or cultural background. To fully understand the figure of Ham and his implications for post-flood history, it is crucial to expand our analysis beyond the pages of Scripture. Ancient Jewish manuscripts such as the Jubilees offer a valuable source of additional insights into the life and descendants of Ham, shedding light on aspects that may not be fully explored in the Bible. The Jubilees, in particular, are a collection of texts that expand and complement the biblical narratives, offering a more detailed and contextualized view of the events and characters mentioned in the Scriptures. Within these manuscripts, we find intriguing details about Ham's family relationships and his influence on post-flood history. For example, Jubilees describes the disputes between Noah's sons and their respective descendants regarding the lands and territories to be claimed after the flood. Ham, along with his children and grandchildren, plays a central role in these narratives, directly influencing the course of events and the geopolitical dynamics of the time. Furthermore, Jubilees offers insights into the motivations and intentions behind the actions of Ham and his descendants, painting a fuller and more complex portrait of this controversial figure. These ancient Jewish manuscripts not only describe events and genealogical lineages, but also explore the family and social dynamics that shape the choices and destinies of the people involved. In examining these texts, we are confronted with moral and ethical dilemmas that transcend the simple narratives found in the Bible. For example, Jubilees can present us with situations in which the decisions of Ham and his descendants were motivated by internal conflicts, individual ambitions, or social pressures. These nuances force us to consider the complexity of human nature and family relationships, questioning our preconceived understanding of biblical characters as merely good or bad. When faced with these moral and ethical dilemmas, we are challenged to reflect on our own values and choices and how they are shaped by internal and external influences. We can find parallels between ancient Jubilee narratives and contemporary issues such as family conflicts, ethical dilemmas, and the complexities of human relationships. Therefore, as we study the Jubilees and other ancient texts, we are encouraged to embrace the ambiguity and complexity of the human condition, recognizing that ancient stories continue to resonate with us today. These texts invite us to consider not just what happened, but why it happened, and how these ethical and moral questions are still relevant to us today. Ultimately, extra-biblical accounts of Ham enrich our understanding of post-flood history and the origins of African peoples. They invite us to delve deeper into the complexities of the human condition and to appreciate the richness and diversity of ancient literary traditions. However, it is important to approach these texts with a critical and cautious spirit, recognizing that not all of the information contained within them may be historically accurate or true to the author's original intentions. In doing so, we can extract maximum insights from these extra-biblical accounts while contextualizing them within the broader picture of ancient history and culture. As we explore the depths of the biblical accounts, it becomes evident that the history of Black and African people is intertwined with the ancestral narratives of Ham and his descendants. However, it is essential to approach these texts with a careful understanding of their cultural and historical context, avoiding simplistic or prejudiced interpretations. In doing so, we can appreciate the richness and complexity of the origins of Black people while continuing to unravel the mysteries that permeate human history. If this dive into biblical origins and narratives has piqued your interest and curiosity, I invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more fascinating and educational content. Share this video with friends and family who may also benefit from these reflections and insights. And don't forget to leave a comment below sharing your own thoughts and questions. We'd love to hear from you and continue this enriching conversation together. Together, we can continue to explore the depths of history and culture, promoting understanding and appreciation of human diversity.